All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming at such short notice to this emergency meeting that we have here tonight on Monday, December 4th, 2023. Everyone is here. Thank you again for coming. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered today on the ancestral unceded territory of the Pastunamakati peoples. And to start off, I would like to have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda. Councillor Harding, Councillor Rodas. Question? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Any conflicts of interest? Seeing none. We had our meeting. Okay, so what we have before you, as we discussed a little bit earlier, is a declaration of a state of a local emergency. And I'd like to have council's support on that. So I need a mover and seconder for the declaration of state of local emergency. Councillor Heislett, Deputy Mayor Wheaton. Whereas the Municipal District of St. Stephen citizens are experiencing homelessness at unprecedented rates in the region. And whereas the experiencing homelessness have under the Canadian Charter of Rights the right to life, liberty, and security of person. And whereas pursuant to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 25, everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and his family, including, holy jumps, food and clothing, housing and medical care and necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, and other lack of livelihood circumstances beyond his control. And whereas the responsibility of housing and social services is within the province of New Brunswick, rests with the government of New Brunswick. And whereas the government of New Brunswick has failed its duties to provide adequate resources to house, support, and care for its citizens within the Municipal District of St. Stephen. The failure of the government of New Brunswick to provide adequate housing and social services to citizens affected by homelessness has resulted in deterioration of quality of life within our community. And whereas the Municipal District of St. Stephen has neither or jurisdictional authority nor the financial resources to be appropriately addressed the consequences of the government of New Brunswick failures. And whereas the government of New Brunswick and its represented by the Minister of Transportation has previously rejected a community-based proposal to address this situation. And whereas the Council of Municipal District of St. Stephen hereby find the threat to public health and safety now exists within the Municipal District of St. Stephen due to the homelessness crisis in St. Stephen, which continues to grow, leading to deplorable living conditions, illness, death, and of unhoused and unsheltered persons within our community. Whereas the former town of St. Stephen established an unsheltered working group for the purpose of identifying and advocating for solutions and homelessness and the methods and means for improving the quality of housing and life for all individuals. Whereas once a person falls into homelessness, an intricate network of services must come together in a coordinated fashion to help lift them out of the state. And whereas the Municipal District of St. Stephen is reliant and dependent upon the government of New Brunswick for provisions of social services, such as outreach and mental health care. And whereas the homelessness crisis has placed additional strain on the local public safety resources due to the police, fire, paramedics, calls to address and the crisis in our streets and other public spaces. And whereas, according to the most recent data, there are approximately 70 persons experiencing homelessness. And whereas on December 1st, Municipal District of St. Stephen emergency services were forced to respond to a fatality of a resident in a public space in a situation which only became more likely as winter weather conditions worsened. Now, therefore, it is hereby declared that the state of local emergency exists in the Municipal District of St. Stephen, particularly but not limited to the area formerly known as the town of St. Stephen. As a result of the the prevalence of the homelessness in our community and the lack of response from the government of New Brunswick to address this public health and safety crisis. Holy jumpers. Pursuant to the Section 12 of the Emergency Measures Act, the Municipal District of St. Stephen may, during the state of local emergency and in the respect of the municipality, in the area of the municipality, as the case may be, do everything necessary for the protection of property and the environment and the health and safety of persons therein, including A, to cause an emergency measures plan to be implemented. B, to inquire or utilize a cause of acquisition or utilization of the personnel property by confiscation or by any means considered necessary. To authorize or require any person to render the aid that the person is competent to provide. C1, in the case of the minister, to provide emergency child care services. D, to control or prohibit travel to or from any area or on any road, street, or highway. E, to provide the maintenance and restoration of essential facilities, distribution of essential supplies and maintenance, and the maintenance of the coordination of the emergency medical, social, and other essential services. F, to cause the evacuation of persons and the removal of livestock and personal property threatened by the disaster or emergency and make arrangements for the adequate care and protection of them. G, to authorize any persons properly identified as authorized by the minister, by the Emergency Measures Organization, or by the Municipal Emergency Measures Organization to enter into any building or any land without warrant. H, to cause the demolition or removal of any building, structure, tree, or crop if the demolition of or removal is necessary or advisable by the purposes of reaching the scene of a disaster, of attempting to forestall its occurrence, or of combating its progress. I, to procure or fix prices for food, clothing, fuel, equipment, medical, and or other essential supplies, and the use of property, services, and resources and equipment. And J, to order the assistance with or without remuneration of persons needed to carry out the provisions mentioned in this section. The Municipal District of St. Stephen does hereby order the following actions be immediately implemented. Pursuant to Section 12C of the Emergency Measures Act, it is hereby ordered that Premier Blaine Higgs authorized the release of the portion of the $1.5 billion surplus held by his government over the past 3 years to fully fund the immediate response to the public health and the safety crisis currently existing in St. Stephen, New Brunswick. And the Honorable Jill Green, Minister of Social Services, direct the Department of Social Services to allocate the resources necessary to address the growing needs of the homeless population in St. Stephen, New Brunswick. And 3, the Honorable Jill Green, as Minister responsible for housing, undertakes steps that may be necessary to provide immediate housing of the growing vulnerable population within St. Stephen, New Brunswick. And the number 4, the Honorable Bruce Fitch, Minister of Health, to dedicate resources as are necessary to address the growing public health crisis associated with the growing homelessness population. And 5, the Honorable Bill Hogan, Minister of Education and Childhood Development, to make available transportation options such as school buses for any needs identified in response to this declaration. 6, the Honorable Ernie Steeves, Minister of Finance and Treasury Board, to make such financial resources as will be necessary to fully fund the immediate and long-term solutions for the being implemented under this order. 7, the Honorable Kathy Baucus, Minister responsible for seniors, to work with her colleagues listed above and ensure that all citizens of St. Stephen are appropriately protected and cared for, with the special attention to senior citizens currently experiencing homelessness. And pursuant to Section 12E of the Emergency Measures Act, I hereby order that the government of New Brunswick implement an emergency response with a specific goal of providing emergency medical, social, and other essential services to those members of our community experiencing homelessness and suffering from mental illness, drug addiction, and the need to engage in criminal activities in order to survive in conditions of a Canadian winter. Pursuant to Section 12F, the Emergency Measures Act, the Municipal District of St. Stephen does hereby authorize the government of New Brunswick to implement measures to provide the evacuation of citizens as risk, exposure, illness, and death to a location where adequate and care and protection can be provided. Pursuant to Section 12J, the Emergency Measures Act, it is hereby ordered that the provisions of the services and resources required to carry out the actions contained within this declaration shall be without remuneration from the Municipal District of St. Stephen. It is further proclaimed that and ordered that a copy of this declaration be forwarded to the New Brunswick Emergency Management Organization, each of its offices, for the individuals tasked with the action under this declaration. It is further proclaimed and ordered that this declaration of a state of local emergency shall take effect immediately, and that the widespread publicity and notice shall be given the declaration throughout the municipality. Dated, what's the date today? December 4th of this day of December 2023. So there. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much, Council. And this is something that was not taken lightly, folks. This is something that we had to do as a community. And I appreciate Council supporting it and the staff and all the work that had to go behind to make sure that what we are doing is correct. But no matter what we did, we're doing the right thing. They're human beings, and we got to take care of them. So I'll bring this meeting to a close. Motion to close. Councilor Harding. Councilor Cornish. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.